Thank you very much for having me. Muchas gracias a la organización por la oportunidad de estar aquí. Today, I'm going to be covering the topic of ESG ratings. We are going to be looking at whether the approach of one-size-fits-all would be appropriate in this space, and why the lack of correlation is something to embrace. So we're going to start off by looking at the landscape of ESG ratings with a quick definition. The definition of ESG rating could be the evaluation of a company based on a comparative assessment of the quality, standard, or performance on environmental, social, or governance issues. ESG ratings first emerged in the 80s as a way of investors to screen companies not purely on financial characteristics, but also to take into account non-financial or, broadly speaking, ESG-related factors. Looking at the landscape, we could categorize ESG rating data providers in three big buckets. We're going to start off from the bottom up. So on the fundamental bucket, this category includes ESG data providers that collect and aggregate publicly available data, mainly from, typically from company filings, companies' websites, and NGOs. These providers, they don't have a rating methodology, and the user of the data must decide the materiality of the data they receive. On the second bucket up, it would be the detail rating provider, which is what we know as an ESG rater as such. In this category includes the ESG data providers in this category have used a combination of objective and subjective data. So they also engage with the companies through questionnaires, interviews, and internal analysis, and provide through a systematic methodology, an ESG rate of the issuer. And on the top, we would have a specific. And this category includes the ESG data providers that specialize in a specific ESG issue, such as carbon emission, diversity, human rights, and they provide an in-depth analysis of a particular issue. And this is very useful for investors that they have the objective of tackle a specific issue. Looking at the shortfalls that the ESG raters find in the market, without going into detail of how the ESG scores are calculated, we have on the left-hand side a little bit of how the market works and what is the impact on the company and the investor side. So while most of the major companies provide some form of ESG reporting, there are competing reporting standards, and almost none are mandatory. So ESG ratings providers provide a service to investors by collecting and aggregate information across a spectrum of sources and reporting standards. As a result, ESG rating agencies have considerable discretion on how to produce ESG ratings and may give different ratings to the same company. ESG ratings are mostly backwards looking, evaluating past performance. So what investors and asset managers are really looking for are indicators for future performance. There are a lot of companies that they don't look optimal based on the backwards looking data. However, from an ESG perspective, they're doing things and committed to do things that really they're moving companies in the right direction, and therefore those ESG moments companies could also create more value over the long term. Another big issue of the space, it would be the quality of the data. Ratings rely on the data reported by companies, and they really need to work towards greater ESG transparency, reporting, and consistency. So what would be the impact on the company side and investor side? So what we heard from the companies is mostly that once the rate is out and is out there for the market to see, if the company identifies any inconsistency in the report, it's very difficult to engage with the rater in order to get it changed. And from the investor side, it would be the investor box ticking. What I mean by this is that some investors in the rush to meet the demand of ESG investment products use ratings as a quick fix for firms that either don't have the resources for a fundamental research or just they want to check the box. On the right-hand side, we have a case study. It's a Boohoo UK company that is being highly rated by the two largest rating agencies. One of them rated the company very highly, and then the other one as a medium risk. And that was just before allegations about its promotion of poverty wages and safe working conditions in the garment hub of Leicester hit international headlines, having a massive impact on the stock. That showcases the lack of correlation. I provided a quick shot of our sustainability governance report at Minerva of this company that we've been covering the stock for a few years, and we have been rating as a poor performer consistently over the years for lack of transparency and poor risk management practices. So all these factors contribute towards the lack of correlation. Also, research has found that the correlation among largest providers to be below 50%. This contrasts sharply with 99% correlation among credit rating agencies. And such inconsistency is essentially an unintended consequences of the breadth of ESG, and also frustrates any attempt of one-size-fits-all approach. And also, it has the range of perspective about what is material has a massive impact in this area. There are also huge concerns about greenwashing and gaming of disclosures to get better grades. And what I mean by gaming of disclosures is corporates normally learn how the methodology of the ESG ratings works, and they learn how to improve the disclosure in order to get a better rate. But in reality, the performance of the company is not any better. That's why in Minerva we support an open and transparency standards, and we try to apply and explain basis as a principle. So how can we see this lack of correlation as an opportunity? So investors and asset managers approach ESG in a different way, and at the same time, ESG ratings providers has a unique methodology for assigning company-specific ratings. Investors, therefore, must ensure their approach is in line with the rate provider they rely on, and consistency with the ESG approach, preferences, and investment beliefs. ESG ratings are a starting point of analysis to understand the landscape and to benchmark companies against each other. Or a poor rating can be used as well as a signal that may need further research. ESG ratings and direct engagement with companies' in-house research are tools that the investors would need to be using along with the rating. They need to deeply understand a company, talk to management, and take into account its strategic context. So there is no single go-to rating for all investors. That is a good, from that perspective, it's a good sign that there isn't a correct one. Otherwise, we wouldn't need human investors. A computer could put up ESG strategy with a couple of clicks, but it's not the case, thankfully. ESG performance is simply difficult to measure. It's because the ESG data is not binary. It's not a yes-no answer. And reasonable people can disagree in the approach or the interpretation of it. You cannot just take an ESG rating off the shelf and trade according to it. You need to understand what the ESG rating is actually capturing, because the different providers define ESG in different ways. Some investors may care about cannabis, some may not. So they need to make sure that the rating that they're using is taking into account their investment beliefs. The relevance and disclosure of ESG issues varies industry by industry, company by company, and country by country as well. As a way of example, Nordic companies, they tend to have a lot more best-in-class ESG companies, and that's purely because they've been focusing on these ESG issues for much longer. If you look at the disclosure of these companies, it's not any better than others, but you can't, based on the disclosure, you can't really say that they are not good on ESG. So these inefficiencies also create opportunities for fundamental managers to extract value and deliver return for shareholders. So based on this, I put up a few data shots from our internal database to showcase the difference between countries. So on the left-hand side, we got the board independence on looking at 6 main European indexes. We can quickly see that the structure of the board is completely different. And for example, we can look at the German one. You can see a bigger number of executive directors on the board. That's probably driven by the dual board structure. There's a common practice there. On the left-hand side, we got a snapshot of the combined chair and CEO, which is a pressing issue for investors. We can quickly see that in France, out of all the indexes we are looking at, France has the most of them, of this figure. On the next slide, we're looking at diversity. What is the female representation of the board? Again, same universe of indexes at per sector. We can quickly see the retailers. I can really see. On the left-hand side, almost 50% female representation and 21% in a different sector. So just a quick recap on this. There is no one-size-fits-all. Beware the greenwashing is there from both sides, investor and company sides. Second, ESG rating is a starting point. We can't forget engagement. Engagement is a big part of the ESG integration. And inconsistency ESG data. However, standards are coming. We can see the TCFD, GRI coming in with good standards, and hopefully it's going to make our life easier. Thank you very much.